So let's talk a little bit about preparing for your Zoom civil bench trial. Technology needs, and this is all online on Zoom and was in the handout that you were sent on Friday, but you should be able to find it online at the Zoom website. If you need that handout, reach out to the King County Bar Association. They'll be able to provide that for you. I'm not going to walk through all of these upload and download requirements. What I would encourage you to do is you can do speed test, and I'll show you how to do that. So here's a screenshot from the Zoom website of all of the system requirements, supported operating systems, browsers. This is speed test, and Judge Thorpe, who's the chair of our technology committee and put a lot of work into this presentation, is a big fan of this. This is just a website online where you can test your connectivity, figure out if you have the bandwidth. Do that, but also just test out Zoom. Test out Zoom with your client, with a witness, with another attorney, and make sure that it's working okay. That's, I think, the best way to go, apart from making sure that you, strictly speaking, have the right bandwidth. Just test it out and see how it looks. So again, here's a screenshot from the Zoom website of some of the bandwidth requirements. Troubleshooting, there's a lot online on the Zoom website, and believe me, I was talking with one of my colleagues the other day, and they said, oh, I'm such a Luddite when it comes to technology, and let me say that the difference between a Luddite and an expert on Zoom these days is pretty negligible. 3 months ago, I had never heard of Zoom, and I'm still learning. We learned a couple of things as we were preparing for today's presentation just an hour ago. So we are all watching these videos online, all trying to learn Zoom together. So what do you do when things go wrong? And Judge Thorpe put these helpful bullet points together. Resist the urge to panic. Just like any other trial, it's okay to stop and ask questions. Your judicial officer may stop and ask questions. You may want to stop and ask questions. When you're in trial, and I found particularly during Zoom hearings, it feels like there's a little bit of pressure to get it right, but you can always stop and figure out if the technology is working okay. We're in this together. We all want the same thing, which is to make a good record and accord your clients the due process that they. But be prepared. So hopefully everything goes great for today's presentation. If it doesn't, it won't be because we weren't prepared, because we have rehearsed a lot. So I would encourage you to do the same. Test out the technology again with your clients and your witnesses. If there are audio issues, and we've seen this already today, be ready to pause until you can figure out the source. Same thing with video issues. Be patient with us here at the court. We'll be patient with you, and be patient with opposing counsel and your witnesses and your clients. So I'm going to show you a few screenshots of what a Zoom civil bench trial might look like, and then I'm just going to check the time. Great, we're right on time. We're going to start our live presentation in just a few minutes. But let me show you some screenshots of what a Zoom civil bench trial might look like. Here's what a Zoom trial might look like, except for plaintiff's counsel. So this is at least what I'm going to be seeing as a judge. Maybe I'm going to see the lawyer on the other side. I'm on the bench. Counsel calls a witness, and again, you're going to see a live demonstration of this in a few minutes. Counsel's going to call a witness. Counsel accesses the share file folder for the case on counsel's computer, right? So all of you who are attorneys out there, let's say you have just called a witness, and all of you came in, or most of you came in this morning from the waiting room, and you were in the waiting room, you logged into Zoom, you were told the presentation was going to start in a moment, you were let in from the waiting room. That's what your witness is going to see typically. They're going to be in a waiting room, and the judicial officer is going to let them in when you call them. So you've called your witness, the judge has let them in, you're going to hear Judge Rosen go through a very thorough presentation in a few minutes about what that might look like, talking the witness through their technology and swearing them in. You called your witness, and now you want to share an exhibit with them from your computer. So you should be logged on in advance to share a file through the browser and ready to share your screen and share an exhibit to your witness. So here's what a screen share might look like. You're going to have the ability to screen share. Right now, I've turned off that ability because too many people kept sharing their screens, whether inadvertently or not. You're going to share your screen, and there's an exhibit in share file, and you're going to open that exhibit. And here's what that would look like. Now, you might see a few features on the right here, like download, that might not be visible to you. This is an administrator view that I have open right now. And if the exhibit is admitted, the clerk's office is going to make that record behind the scenes. If you're wondering how an exhibit that is electronic gets marked, I think right now the clerk's office is still working on maybe using DocuSign to electronically stamp exhibits. But in any event, you can be sure that behind the scenes, the clerk's office is going to be marking that exhibit as admitted. One frequently asked question is, are there other ways a party could share an exhibit with a witness? Well, one way, of course, is if your judge has allowed you to have hard copies, or let's say you've uploaded your exhibits electronically to share file, but for whatever reason, your witness is only able to call in, or they don't have the ability to see something on their screen. The witness could have a hard copy in advance, and you would have gotten them that hard copy, or maybe you emailed them a PDF. And if you're wondering, well, how do I know what the witness has in their hand is the same as what was provided to the court? And the short answer is we can't be 100% sure that misconduct won't happen. But one thing you will have to do in your briefing, in your joint statement of evidence, is certify. And here's a screenshot of at the bottom. You're going to have to certify that what you gave to the court is the same as what you're giving to the witnesses. So as long as counsel represents that what they're sharing is the same as what was uploaded, and the other side doesn't dispute that, counsel could display a document right in the application as well. So maybe just open a PDF, not from ShareFile, but from their computer, and display it. So there are a lot of ways to get at that. What about exhibits created during trial? And you're going to see this in a moment, and it's pretty interesting, and you'll see a demonstration of this. Illustrative exhibits, ideally, if you know you're going to have some illustratives, we'd love to get those in advance. But we also know that you might create an illustrative exhibit, which often happens, during trial. If you do that, you might need to be creative. You might need to save the annotated exhibit or the whiteboard that's been drawn in Zoom Whiteboard and send it to the clerk's office, maybe at the next break. You might need to scan and upload a document. Whatever you do, just make sure that you and the court and the clerk and opposing counsel are on the same page. And frankly, it's no different than if you were in trial and you created an illustrative. You've always got to figure out a way to get that into evidence. If you have a new exhibit that you want to get in substantively, in other words, it's not just an illustrative exhibit. So as often happens, you've got some long document and you figure out you don't need the whole document. You just need 3 pages. The clerk says you've got to mark that as the next exhibit in line. Same thing. You might need to extract 3 pages from a PDF, create a new exhibit, upload it to ShareFile, make sure the clerk's office gets it. Just make sure that you're in communication with the clerk and the court so everybody knows what the plan is to get that exhibit in. But you should expect some guidance from the court. This is Zoom Whiteboard. So an attorney could have you have a witness make a drawing in Zoom Whiteboard and have that be saved, and you'll see some annotation examples here in a few minutes. Here's an example of an attorney screen sharing an exhibit and then actually annotating the exhibit. So that blue arrow was something that was added, and we're going to take you through a hypothetical in a moment about what an objection might look like and why a judge might overrule you in that instance if you were concerned about a witness annotating an original exhibit. Regarding the integrity of the proceedings, that pretrial conference order that you're going to see will outline your responsibility. You might want to give a copy of that to your witness. Let your witness know about the expectations for the trial and try to help them think through what their environment might look like, that it's alone, there's some level of privacy, and hopefully they're away from distractions, that they don't have other devices going, that they don't have any notes or other things except for maybe hard copy exhibits. But we also know, and a lot of you have been working from home, that not everybody has, like I do, a giant oak panel behind them for their office. So we know that I think people are going to do the best that they can when they're trying to set up an environment for either being an attorney representing somebody in a trial or being a witness. So one thing, and you'll hear Judge Rosen go through this in a moment, is a witness needs to be able to answer questions about their technology, screen size, for example. Regarding virtual backgrounds, and I talked about this a little bit at the beginning, we advise, a lot of us advise that your witnesses not use virtual backgrounds because they can be distracting, but we understand that you might want to. But try to have, I think, as plain a background as you can. I was in a meeting the other day where someone, not an attorney and not a judge, was using the deck of the Starship Enterprise for their virtual background. That's fine for a meeting, not so fine for a trial. I've had hearings where attorneys didn't have a virtual background, but what was behind them was a well-stocked liquor cabinet, which is always interesting to see what's in people's homes. But maybe test out with another lawyer what your background looks like, because maybe they're going to see something that you didn't see. But remember that this is still court. One speaker at a time, stop for objections. The clerk is audio recording everything using the FTR system. That is the court record. We are all critical. We're all in this together, at least when it comes to a trial. And all of the rules still apply. We get a lot of questions about, again, opportunities for misconduct, but all of the rules apply to you in a virtual Zoom civil bench trial that would apply to you if you were right here in my courtroom right now. So let's talk a little bit about the RPCs. We came up with some of these RPCs on our own, and then I had a real good chat the other day with Jean Marie Claver, who is professional responsibility counsel for the State Bar, and she helped me think through some other rules that might apply. So these are just ethics reminders. So RPC 1.1, competence. It's interesting, right there in comment 9 to RPC 1.1 talks about being abreast of technology, changes in technology. You'll want to talk through with your client whether or not a Zoom civil bench trial is right for them and what that might entail, and you'll want to make sure that you understand the technology before you go into a Zoom bench trial. And folks, it's okay if you don't. You'll want to try and learn, but be honest with your judge and understand that if you're like me, a lot of you probably know Zoom a lot better than I do. So everybody should be candid with each other about your capabilities, and certainly be candid with your client. So RPC 1.4 requires you to consult with your client about the means to achieve their objectives. So you may want to talk with your client. You should talk with your client about, again, about whether Zoom is right for them. But help them understand if they're really insistent, and we've had some parties that have been really insistent that they have an in-person trial, and what we've had to explain to them is you need to tell us why your need to be here in person for whatever reason is more important than all of the public health concerns that are in play right now. Candor towards the tribunal. So we bring this up to remind folks because we get a lot of questions about, well, aren't witnesses who are testifying remotely going to be watching the testimony of other witnesses or watching recordings of the witnesses? Aren't they going to have notes and annotations and somebody else in the room whispering the answers to them? And what I would say to that is we can't rule that out. We understand your concerns, and they're valid concerns, but you as an attorney have an obligation to be candid towards the court and to be candid towards opposing counsel, and we expect you to live up to that. Impartiality and decorum. So don't communicate, for example, ex parte. Don't start sending the judge private messages in Zoom chat during the trial. For one thing, that's ex parte contact. For another thing, it's not going to be on the court record. If the proceedings are being taken down by a court reporter or being recorded, the only thing that's going to be in the court record is what's said and the evidence that's admitted. Fairness to opposing counsel. For example, don't conceal a document which you're required to upload to ShareFile. So no sandbagging. Don't wait until after the ShareFile upload deadline to put something in there because you want to somehow hide it from opposing counsel. A few other rules that I was talking with bar counsel about the other day. Don't falsify evidence. So in other words, don't coach your witness to do something over Zoom that they might not do if they were testifying here live in court. Don't make any false statements or fail to disclose a material fact, for example, that your witness is someplace and has access to notes or other material that they shouldn't have access to under the rules of evidence. And just remember the overarching rule 8.4, which is that it's misconduct to violate or try to violate the rules. And these are some of the warnings that you're going to see in your pretrial conference order. Again, certifying that what you've given to your witness is the same as what you gave to the court. That just like a live in-person civil bench trial, witnesses are excluded under ER 615. So they would have to be out in the hallway here on the 8th floor in my courthouse. And if they're in a Zoom civil bench trial, they will have to be outside of the proceedings. They can't be on the Zoom. So we're going to do a live demonstration now. I'm going to stop my screen sharing. I've stopped my screen sharing. Judge Rosen, are you ready?
Yes, thank you, Judge Keenan.
Okay.
All right, we're ready for our first case. Are the lawyers available?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Please make your appearances.
Katie Comstock for the plaintiff.
Isham Revis on behalf of the plaintiff.
And Armando Padron Cruz on behalf of the defendant.
All right, is plaintiff ready to call its first witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Plaintiff calls Jane Morrow to the stand.
All right, Ms. Morrow, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Steve Rosen. I'm a Superior Court judge in King County. We are on the record and being recorded. This means that everything that happens during this audio, video, Zoom call is being recorded. Do you understand that?
I do.
And do you understand, and everyone on the call should understand, that they may not record this without asking my permission. Do you understand that, Ms. Morrow?
Yes, I do.
And can you tell me what city you're in at this point?
Bainbridge Island, Washington.
Great. I'd like you to raise your right hand and I'll swear you in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony and information that you're about to present to this court will be true and accurate?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Morrow, can you tell me what kind of device you're on? Is it a computer, a laptop, a phone, and about how big the screen is?
I'm using a MacBook Pro with a 13-inch screen.
All right. And are you able to see me and the lawyers fairly well and hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay. If at any time you have a problem seeing or hearing anyone on this call, I want you to immediately let me know, even if that means interrupting somebody. Don't be shy. You have my permission to interrupt if you can't see or hear. It is very, very important that you're able to see and hear everything that's happening during the call. Do you understand that instruction?
I do, and I will let you know.
Thank you. If at any time you have a problem, as I said, let us know. We will work together to solve the problem. The technology is not perfect, but we can usually solve most of the issues. Another thing that I want to instruct you on is your reference to outside information. You may not refer to anything outside of the usual trial process when you testify. This means that you cannot talk to somebody off camera, get an electronic message during your testimony, review notes, look at your calendar, or gain any information during your testimony. The only sources of information during your testimony are the exhibits that we show to you or your memory. If you want to look at something to help you remember some piece of information, such as looking at a calendar to help you remember a date, all you have to do is ask us before you refer to that information. The lawyers and I will then confer and decide whether or not you can look at that document or gain that information and let you know how to proceed. Do you agree to be bound by this procedure?
Yes.
All right. Finally, it is very difficult to hear over Zoom or over a teleconference when multiple people are talking at the same time. It is just a basic limitation of a lot of this technology. So if one of the lawyers needs to object, we're going to ask you to stop talking so that I can focus on their objection and not have the technology mean I can't hear either of you. And to the lawyers, I have instructed them that if they want to make an objection, they should state their objection, but they should also hold their hand up, kind of like I'm doing now, so that you can see that they're objecting, because when you're talking, you may not hear them say the word objection because of the technical limitations. Does that all make sense to you, Ms. Morrow?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Do you have any questions about this technology or how we'll be using it today?
Not yet.
All right, plaintiff, you may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Morrow, can you please describe what took place on May 11th, 2017, approximately 2:30 in the afternoon?
Well, I was driving my car and I was heading to work, and I was coming up to the intersection of Main and Water like I always do, and out of the blue, a big white van just blew right through the intersection, crashing into me.
Thank you. Your Honor, I would like to please share my screen with Ms. Morrow to show her what has been previously marked as Exhibit 20.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
You may share your screen, Ms. Comstock.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Morrow, I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see Exhibit 20. Ms. Morrow, can you see Exhibit 20 on your screen?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm showing you what has been marked as Exhibit 20 for identification. Can you please tell me what you see in this photograph?
Well, my car is the gray car, and that I was driving that day, and that's the van that crashed right through the intersection and forced me to crash right into it.
Does this picture accurately portray the scene after that accident on May 11th, 2017?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit Plaintiff's Exhibit 20 into evidence.
Any objection to its admission?
No objection.
It is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Morrow, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for Exhibit 20. Your Honor, I would like to please show Ms. Morrow Exhibit 21. It's been previously marked as Exhibit 21.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, and I should have told you this earlier. When I'm looking off to the side, to especially Ms. Morrow, but also the lawyers, I have two screens, so I'm not doing something else, and you may show your exhibit.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Morrow, I'm going to again share my screen with you. Ms. Morrow, can you see Exhibit 21 on your screen?
Yes.
Thank you. So I'm showing you what's been previously marked as a Plaintiff's Exhibit 21. And are you familiar with the intersection of Portsmouth and Trasker Road?
Oh, yes. That was it. That was the intersection where this happened.
Does this diagram accurately portray that intersection on the day of May 11, 2017?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would like to move to admit Exhibit 21 for illustrative purposes.
Any objection?
No objection.
21 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Morrow, I'm going to next ask you to make some marks on this Exhibit 21.
An objection, Your Honor. There doesn't appear to be a method for saving witness annotations on Exhibit 21.
All right, I know we're all new to this technology, so I'm just going to explain it for a second and tell you why I'm making the ruling that I am. So when you've uploaded a document to share file through our court's sort of new electronic record keeping system, the file that you see and can look at and modify is a separate file from the clerk's official copy. There is a set of files that I cannot change, that you cannot change, that the witness cannot change. So in that way, everything on this exhibit that's changed, we will have the original, And then if Ms. Comstock wants, she can take a screenshot through Zoom of what's on the screen with the annotations, and then it would be up to counsel to decide whether they want to offer that as a separate exhibit. Does that make sense?
Yes, Your Honor.
And for that reason, the objection is overruled. You may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Morrow, if you go to the top of your screen and hover your mouse, you should see the option to annotate.
I see it.
Can you please select that so that you can then mark this Exhibit 21?
Okay, I've done that.
Thank you. Can you please show us on this diagram where your car was prior to the accident?
That's the position of my car.
Thank you. And can you please show us the position of the defendant's car prior to the accident?
Well, it came so fast that it had to be coming from here when it blew through the intersection.
Thank you, Ms. Morrow. Your Honor, I would like to move to admit as the next available exhibit number, this exhibit with the annotations into the record.
All right, and do you, have you already made an exhibit? Have you taken a screenshot of this?
No, Your Honor, I have not. How do I do that?
All right, let's first see, in theory, if we can get the technology to comply. Is there any objection to the admission of the modified exhibit?
No objection.
All right, so Ms. Comstock, at the top of your screen where you click on Annotate, on the very top right of that annotation ribbon, there should be a button that says Save Screenshot or Take Screenshot. Do you see that?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you click that, it will simply save a file on your computer that you can upload later to share file. You have the clerk give an exhibit number or use the numbering method that we gave you previously and then move to admit it.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have now saved the diagram and I would like to move to admit this saved diagram into evidence.
All right, and I will ask the court clerk, who is indicating to me that will be Exhibit 28. So when you upload it to share file so that we have an actual copy of it, then I will entertain your motion to admit it. So for now, I'll reserve it. Alternatively, if there's some reason that you can't do that, we could always work out something else like emailing the document to the clerk and the bailiff. But for now, let's try to use share file. And if there's any problems, just let us know.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
All right. Great, thank you. That concludes scenario number 1. And we're now going to move on to scenario number 2. All right, perfect. And is the defense now ready to call its next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Defense calls Colin Mealing to the stand.
All right. I see, well, I saw a second ago that Mr. Mealing was in the waiting room, and I was about to let him in, but I think one of our co-hosts on this seminar has done that for me, so I appreciate that. So, Mr. Mealing, are you currently in the room?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
Great. Mr. Mealing, I'd ask you to raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony and information that you're about to present to this court will be true and accurate?
I do.
All right. And I will fast forward through all of the same instructions that I gave to Ms. Morrow, as I know you've already heard them and agreed to them. And you may ask your first question.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Mealing, I provided you a hard copy of Exhibit 22 in advance of today's testimony. Do you have that with you?
Yes, I do.
And can you possibly show that to the court, just the back of it?
All right, I'll do my best with the camera here. It appears to be a copy of an X-ray.
Okay, and how are you familiar with that exhibit, Mr. Mealing?
This appears to be an X-ray that I took some time back.
And is that a fair and accurate depiction of the X-ray that you took of the defendant's arm?
That is correct, it is.
Your Honor, the defense moves to admit into evidence Exhibit 22 as Defense Exhibit 22.
Any objection?
And Your Honor, I'm going to object. This is a hard copy of of some exhibit and not from the exhibit repository and share file. We have no way of knowing that this exhibit is authentic.
And my understanding is that in the pretrial order that I issued, my memory is that the pretrial order that I issued indicates that the parties were to upload the documents to share file or provide hard copies to the witness, the court, and the other party of what's in share file. To the defense, have you certified in the joint statement of evidence by your signature that any copies of the exhibits that you have provided to the witnesses are identical to the original exhibits provided to the court?
Yes, Your Honor, that's correct.
All right. In that case, I will grant the motion to admit, and Exhibit 22 is now admitted.
And no further questions from the defense, Your Honor.
Cross?
Yes, Mr. Mealing, my name is Isham Rivas. I'm a counsel for the plaintiff, and I have a few questions to you about the exhibit that you just discussed. This, I understand, this was generated with the X-ray machine at your radiology clinic. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And is it your position that that X-ray machine generates accurate X-ray images?
That is my understanding that it generally does so.
Your Honor, I would like to show the witness an exhibit. I just received this and I have not had time to upload it to share file.
All right. And have you shared it with counsel?
So I just received this now. I can email it to counsel.
Okay. Any objection upon receipt of that email to showing it to the witness?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. I will send that email right now, and I have done so. So at this point, can I request what the next exhibit number would be for this exhibit?
Absolutely. The clerk is indicating that would be exhibit number 48.
Mr. Mealing, I am going to show you what is going to be marked as exhibit 48. I'm just pulling this up on my screen since it's not on share file. This is from my desktop. And I'm actually going to hand control of this exhibit over to you so you can scroll through it. And I'm going to go up to the menu at the top of my screen, click on the option that says remote control, search for your name among the participants, and click on your name to hand you control of the screen.
Okay, just for clarification, it appears at the top bar, there's a yellow line that says you are controlling Isham Rivas' screen, and it appears that I'm in control now.
Great. Mr. Mealing, could you just take a moment and scroll through the 2 pages of this exhibit and stop when you've got to the bottom of the 2nd page?
All right.
And just to clarify, Mr. Mealing, that is you moving the screen around?
That is me. I jumped down a little bit too fast initially, so just give me a second. Okay. Had the opportunity to review this exhibit.
Thank you. And Mr. Mealing, I'm actually going to take control of this back from you at this point. I'm going to do that by clicking on the button that says stop sharing on my screen. Sorry, not stop sharing. Sorry, abort control. So I clicked on remote control and abort control. You're no longer in control of the screen?
That's what it appears to be.
All right, and I see, and I have control back. Mr. Mealing, I've highlighted a part on this screen. Does that appear to be the email address at your radiology clinic?
Yes, that is my work email.
And I've highlighted the signature block. Does that appear to be your signature block?
Yes, it is.
And I've highlighted the text. And does that text say, there is an issue with our X-ray machine, it's generating distorted images that don't accurately represent our patient's condition?
You have read that text correctly.
Do you recall sending this email?
Vaguely.
Your Honor, at this point, I move to admit Exhibit 48.
Any objection to its admission?
No objection.
All right. So what we're going to have you do, Mr. Isham, is send that up to the clerk either through share file or as an email. Do you feel comfortable sending it up through share file?
Yes, Your Honor, I will do that.
All right. So subject to you uploading it so the court has an official copy, because currently we do not, then the motion to admit would be granted. And it'll be up to you to do that and verify with the clerk that it has been properly uploaded and noted on the exhibit list as admitted, which you can do later on today or after a break.
Understood, Your Honor. And right now I'm going to click on the stop sharing button to stop sharing my screen.
Great. Any other questions?
No, not for me.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Great, thank you. That is the end of the second scenario. Thank you all for helping out.
Nice work, everybody. Judge Rosen, there was a question that came in the chat a moment ago, and I'm not sure, I'm trying to remember if we can do this. Are you able to show on your screen what an attorney, for example, would see when they are trying to turn over remote control? Can you do that?
I believe I can. I'm going to try. Somebody had asked a question about closed captioning, so I'm going to try to share that screen with all of you. So you should be able to see my screen. Can you see that, Judge Keenan?
Yes.
And if I go up here, there's a button marked remote control. I'm just going to click that button, and then I can choose anybody in the meeting. This meeting has a lot of people in it compared to a regular trial. So I'm going to type Keenan and click on Judge Keenan. And now he should be getting a message that says click to control the screen, and you should be able to scroll up and down. So
That's right.
I'm not doing this. Judge Keenan is the one controlling the screen. And he can use his mouse to highlight things or point at things as he's talking about them, whatever he wants. And then when we're done, I take the mouse and I just either click stop share, or I can go back to remote control and turn it off. Which actually, I've always just done stop share.
Your Honor, I believe if you actually click the remote control button that you use to hand over control in the first part, there's a big abort control thing that pops up.
Perfect.
Excellent. So we don't have time to go through everything in the chat box. There were understandably, a lot of questions about access to justice. And I can assure you that here at the court, we're thinking about this a lot, trying to think through what technology solutions would look like. I have a trial coming up where both parties are unrepresented, and I've talked through with them, how and if they can access the trial remotely. It is a big challenge. Whether we're talking about some sort of kiosk out in the community, places where somebody could go, or just whether somebody can do this over their mobile phone or over their tablet, which they can, although it may be more challenging than being on a laptop, for example. But those are all really good questions about the access to justice issues. Judge Cahan, if you're still on, is there anything you wanted to add before we ended the meeting?
No, I just want to really thank you all. I think I know you've worked really hard on this, and I just really appreciate it. I'm happy to answer questions. If I tried to answer a bunch of questions in the chat box, I'm happy to answer more. We are very much trying to figure out the access to justice piece. We've apply for some funding under the CARES Act. We're looking to put another proposal, because we didn't get it, we're looking to put another proposal in for more funding. Anyway, it's high on our list. We're well aware of it.
Thank you, Judge Cahan. Judge Rosen, is there anything you wanted to add?
Just that I want to thank everyone for helping put this together. It was really a big team effort. And I did see a question flow through about putting people into rooms for private conversations, which is a very common request. And it sounds like we need to wrap up, but I have about an extra 10 minutes. So if anybody wants to stay on the call, and Judge Keenan, you want to make me host, I can show you all how that works if you'd like.
Sure, Judge Rosen. And folks, you are welcome to stay on, and we can kind of talk through some things. Put your questions in the chat box. And Judge Rosen, it sounds like you want to demonstrate for them breakout rooms. Is that right? Okay. First, let me just thank everybody one more time. So again, thank you to Daniel Anderson from the clerk's office, who has been instrumental, especially on the share file piece. Our civil chief, Judge Cahan, who has been just fantastic, working with the civil bar, keeping everybody up to date, working through solutions, helping the civil department get up to speed. Katie Comstock from Levy Von Beck Comstock, Wendy Feng from Dorsey and Whitney on behalf of the KCBA YLD, Colin Mealing from Schrader, Goldmark and Bender, Jane Morrow, who was our plaintiff's witness from Otterowski, Morrow, and Golden, Armando Padron Cruz, who's with the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, Kelly Paradis from the Attorney General's Office, also on behalf of the KCBA YLD, Isham Revis from Aoki Law, our fantastic judge, Judge Rosen, who has been asked to reprise this role many times and probably will again in the future, Beth Taylor from the King County Superior Court Office, and then Judge Thorpe, who's not here today, but who put a ton of work into this presentation. Thank you to all of you. So you all at this point are welcome to drop off of the Zoom, but you can also stay on for a little bit. I think we've all got a few more minutes and to practice some things. And Judge Rosen, you said you wanted to be host now?
Yes,
All right,
that'll allow me to show that feature.
Sorry, I had mute on accidentally.
All right, so hold on. Judge Rosen, you are now the host.
All right, so one of the things that I'm finding in my Zoom trials and actually my Zoom hearings is where the lawyers need to talk to their clients privately. And it happens a lot even during hearings because the lawyer and the client are not in the same place. And often they're using their technology, their cell phone, to be a part of the Zoom meeting, so they can't step away and make a phone call. So I just wanted to show you how to do that. And I'm going to share my screen with you. And you should all be seeing my screen here. And at the bottom, can someone tell me, Judge Keenan, can you see the breakout rooms button there? I'm seeing some people nod their heads.
Yes, I can see it. I can see it.
All right, just wanted to check. So I'm going to just pick, because they're at the top, Armando and Katie of my screen. I'm going to click breakout rooms, and it's going to give me the option. If I want to just move one lawyer and one client into a breakout room, I'm just going to click some buttons. You really don't know how to do this, but what's important is that I'm going to create a room, and you're going to see they're going to disappear from our meeting. So I'm going to put in, because there's so many people on this, I'm going to check the box for Armando and for Katie. And all I'm going to click here is I'm going to tell them, and if I was in a hearing, is 5 minutes enough for that conversation? If so, you'll be brought back in to talk with us after 5 minutes. And what I'm going to do is simply click open all rooms. And now Katie and Armando should have a little note on their screen that says click here to join, and you'll see them disappear. We should see them disappear. There goes Katie, there goes Armando. All right. And so now they're just in a totally separate Zoom meeting, and they can do anything that they want in Zoom. They can talk about lawyer-client information. It is private. I can't hear them. The clerk can't hear them. Obviously, none of you can hear them. They can share the screen. They can put up documents like we were doing. They're really not very limited. Now, while it's technically true that as the host of the meeting, I can join their meeting, one, judges are being told not to do that. And two, if we did do that, you would know because you would get a message on your screen. that would say Judge Rosen has joined the breakout room. So it really does provide an easy way for attorney-client communications. I have probably done it at least 6 times in hearings and trials already, and it generally works. I even had one today, which was a first for me. We're all learning. I had somebody who was on the phone and someone who was on the Zoom call, and we were able to move those people into a Zoom private breakout room. I see the question coming on. Is the breakout room also recorded? And first of all, we're not going to have recording during trials, so nothing will be recorded. And it's also my limited understanding that only the main room is recorded. It doesn't record the breakout room, even if the main room is being recorded. Okay, so now I can go back down to breakout rooms, and I can just click. Well, I can do 2 things here. One, if you're in a room, the judge can send you a message. Hi guys, going to bring you back. So I can say, all right, you've got 30 seconds, you've got 20 seconds, we need you to come back, do you need more time, whatever. So they get a little message across the top of their screen. You can't see it because you're not in the breakout room that says, Judge Rosen says you have 1 more minute, or whatever it is you choose to send to the breakout room. And then I click this button, close rooms. I've set it so they have 15 seconds, and they can then click to come back to us, or if they do nothing, they will be back with us automatically after 15 seconds. And there they are at the bottom of my screen. Let's see. Are there other chat questions we should be answering? I haven't been watching them.
Judge Rosen, somebody asked if the chat can be saved, so if you can download the chat, for example. I think some folks would like to go back and reference it. Now, my understanding is, so you're the host now, so I can't do this, but my understanding is that you could click on the drop down for the chat and click on Save Chat, that you as the host could do that. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. I've never done that. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm sorry. I do know.
And you could, I think, I was just saying, I think you, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I do know that we can turn off the chat, which is something you should be prepared for. So I've already had to do that a number of times. I can click right here on the chat button. And if I turn this on right now, if any of you click the chat button on your screen, if we were in the middle of a trial or a hearing, you would no longer be able to send chat messages. And for me, that's the default. In my hearings, I do not allow you to chat with each other or with anybody else. I'll turn it back on so that you can send in questions. But I have the ability, if somebody is screen sharing and they're not supposed to be, I can turn it off and bring it back to normal, if you will. I'm sorry, Judge Keating, go ahead.
Nope, that was the only comment that I had. I'm trying to see, is there anything else in the chat box that we can address? All right, well, I think we're going to leave it there. So you should have gotten this tip sheet on Friday or at the latest today. These are materials that the King County Bar Association sent out. If you didn't get that, then just go back to the same email address that you would have RSVP'd to, and you'd be able to get that tip sheet. So a lot of this, I shouldn't say a lot, but the share file stuff is on the clerk's office website. You can find that there. But more importantly, when you're in your pretrial conferences with your judges, talk through these things with them, ask questions if you have them, and they'll be happy to try and work with you. Let me just take one last look in the chat box. So somebody was asking if, go ahead, Judge Rosen.
I was just going to say, because we had this question previously about geographic locations, which came up in domestic violence protection order cases, and we had someone look into it. I don't know the details, but we were told that they cannot track where each other are on the meetings, and that was very important for us. And there was a question about the rooms, the breakout rooms, that someone did not have that feature. That's correct. Only the judge has the ability to move people into breakout rooms. I think that's a pretty obvious reason we don't want people self-selecting that in the middle of trial. Go ahead, Judge Keenan.
Well, I was saying, somebody asked about recording, and so this is being recorded, and as soon as we can, we're going to get a link up, which we'll provide to KCBA so that they can link to it, and hopefully we're going to have a link on our site as well so that you can come back and look at this again. Well, thank you so much to all of our role players. There was a lot of work that went into this presentation from a lot of people and a lot of rehearsal to get the choreography right. So we hope you've learned a little bit. And let me just say that we miss you. We are looking forward to a time when we can hopefully all be in person again. That time is not right now. And until then, we'll see you on Zoom. I'm going to end the meeting now. Well, actually, Judge Rosen, you need to end the meeting now because you're the host.
Thanks, everybody.
I gave it back to you. But I did want to add just one brief thing for those of you still on the line, and that is, if you have a hearing or a trial coming up over Zoom, it is imperative that you practice. The judges have been told the same thing. Get a partner. You can even use opposing counsel just to practice. I use my teenage son to take an hour, try out each and every one of the settings. How do I use share file? How do I show a document? How do I use chat? How do I do whatever it is I might need to do? And we are seeing that it takes a pretty good hour of practicing till you're familiar with how to do what you need to do. So go out and practice away. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you, Judge Rosen.